All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of our Secret Path Week events. As we gather today, we are reminded that throughout Canada, we are situated on Indigenous lands, both ceded treaty land and unceded land. This land is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. As a country, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work. So today I acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral people on whose territory I broadcast from today. My name is Joe Borowski, and I'll be your host for today. I run an organization called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. If you've never been with us before, we bring science, adventure, exploration, and conservation live into classrooms across North America through virtual guest speakers, virtual field trips. If you check out exploringbytheseat.com, you can find 40, 50, even 60 live events each month to join live with your classrooms. This is the 3rd year that we have been collaborating with the Gord Downie and Chanie Wenjack Fund to bring Indigenous leaders, artists, and scientists live to classrooms across Canada. We have an incredible week underway with 20 live events, including musical performances, language lessons, storytelling, and much, much more. The Gord Downie and Chanie Wenjack Fund is a part of musician Gord Downie's legacy and embodies his commitment and that of both the Downie Wenjack families to build cultural understanding and create a path towards reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The goal of the Downie Wenjack Fund is to continue the conversation that began with Chanie Wenjack's residential school story and to support the reconciliation process through awareness, education, and action. Now, many of the classrooms joining us today, you are already doing something as part of the Legacy School program. If this is new to you, it's a free national initiative to engage, empower, and connect educators to further reconciliation through awareness, education, and action. So if you do visit the Downie Wenjack site, the link's up there for you. You can learn more about this program. Students across Canada have already been taking a part in reconciliation activities called Reconciliation to continue the conversation in their classrooms, in their homes, and in their communities. So do visit and check out the Legacy Schools program. We have a great event to wrap up our day of events. We are going to connect with Nick Sherman. While Nick still calls his rural birthplace of Sioux Lookout home, he spent much of his youth out on the land, moving between his hometown, the small First Nation community of Weagamow Lake, and his family's trapline on North Caribou Lake. It was there in the depths of the Northern Ontario forest that his family members would play the guitar as they tended their trapline, and he found himself soaking in those songs, soaking in those lyrics. And now today his music is taking him all across the country, playing at events and festivals like Ottawa Bluesfest, Vancouver Folk Festival, the Luminato Festival, and many, many more. So I'm going to bring Nick in live with us right now. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm good. It's great to have you joining us live today.
It is great to be here, and everyone else that's tuning in, I'm really happy to be here with everyone today.
Awesome. Well, shout out to the crew joining via YouTube. Use that chat to let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know where you're joining us from. I can see a few already saying hi in Ontario, in Calgary, as far away as Kansas City, Missouri. That's pretty cool. So Nick, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit, and then we'll rock a little Q&A action.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Unfortunately, I cannot see you, but I believe that you are there. My name is Nick Sherman. Look at you guys all. There you are. Oh, right on. Let's see how many waves I can get. I saw a few waves in there. My name is Nick Sherman. And, like Joe was saying in his intro, I spent a lot of time traveling around. Unfortunately, not right now, not during COVID, not traveling too much. And, been doing a lot of connecting like this, online. And, but I'm happy to see everyone in their classrooms. I'm happy to see you all, being able to do that right now. And I feel like, it's been a weird year. It's been a weird time. I have 2 boys as well. And, I'm happy that they get to go back to school. Anyway, that being said, my name is Nick Sherman. I'm a singer-songwriter. I write songs. I travel. I share stories. And right now, I'm actually based in Thunder Bay, Ontario. That is where I am. And one of the driving forces for my inspiration and the reason that I play music and why I think it's so important and why it resonates with me is that it was something that was, part of my family, part of the things that my family did, especially when we were up north. And like Joe was saying in the intro, I spent a lot of time up north, and the community that I'm from, I grew up in a town called Sioux Lookout, but my reserve is called Weagamow Lake, which means round lake. And my community also has another name, which is North Caribou Lake, and there's a reason that it has those names. When communities or reserves were being created many years ago, they would just go to a spot and they would say, this is where everyone is. And they would just kind of compile everybody into that spot. So a lot of places ended up with different kinds of names, maybe several names, that kind of thing. Anyway, I spent a lot of time growing up north and, hearing stories of family members that had actually gone to residential school. And, as I got older, I went and toured. I toured around the country. I've toured and played a lot of different places. But more recently, before COVID, I got to go up north quite a bit. And I, really wanted to connect with smaller communities that you could only fly into or access by road in the winter, things like that. I always thought that was, important. I thought that was important to get up there because not a lot of people jump in their tour bus or in their tour van or in their tour car, and decide to go up north, to places that are more isolated. And so I've made a point to do that over the years and go to schools, small schools that don't have very much, and I've got to see a lot of different situations and really see how it is different for people living in isolated communities, and it's really hard to do that right now. A lot of those places that have access only by road or by plane have had no visitors or nobody going up north, and very much like this, connecting online and it's really, I feel like a lot of those communities have been even more isolated. But anyway, when I was traveling a lot, you know, uh, I got to stay in different places and not just go into the schools, but connect with community members. And in one particular instance, I got to actually connect with a family member who I hadn't seen in a long time. And he was staying in a place that I was staying at. And I wasn't expecting to see him. He was my older uncle who travels around the north as well. And I thought that was really cool that we got to spend about, a week together. And during that week, he told me a lot of stories about things that had happened to him when he was a lot younger, when he had gone to residential school and things like that. And they were very hard stories to hear. They were very, challenging, traumatic experiences that he had gone through when he was a child and when he was young. And, he wasn't telling me these stories, to make me feel sorry for him or make me feel bad or anything like that. He was telling me these stories from a different place, different, I don't know, a different place in his mind or his body, not coming from a place of anger, where I think a lot of people, there is a lot of anger, especially now. I know a lot of you guys have probably heard about, if you're a part of this, I'm sure you've heard about the residential schools, and of course the most recent findings of bodies, around churches, which, the number is growing, and it's in the thousands now, how many, young children didn't make it home. Very tragic, very sad. And I assure you, those stories are real. They're real, and they are sad, and they're hard to hear. It's not easy, but it is real. And it's stuff that I've known about since I was young. And connecting with my uncle who went through this stuff, was very hard to hear. But like I said, he was talking about it from a different place, and he wanted to, tell me these stories because these are things that helped motivate him, help inspire him, helped make him move and move forward in his life, and use those terrible experiences to, inspire him and kind of, use that fire to make a life for himself one that he wanted, and things like that. And that was different to hear. That was hard to hear. As you in your classes learn about these things, as you learn about tragic things, traumatic things, things that happen to people, that maybe you even know. Um, there is going to be anger. There are going to be feelings that come with learning these kinds of things, right? So you go through anger, you go through fear, you go through sadness, you go through, just almost mourning, like just really sad things to hear. But also, you have to also acknowledge the resilience and the power and the fight and the inspiration that comes from people that continue to do the work and to continue to move forward and to continue to build their communities and inspire other people, because we don't want things like that to happen again. When you're done school, you get to go home to your families. When my boys are done school, they come home, to our home here, and that's good, right? Those are things that we are grateful for, and there are people out there that are telling their stories and are brave enough to do that, so that what had happened, in this country, these tragic things, right? That being said, I write songs, I sing, I don't just talk for a long time. So I'm going to share a couple songs with you guys. This first song I'm going to play, I wrote it shortly after I had that experience with my uncle. After processing what he had said and thinking about all the hard things that he went through and thinking about all the hard things that people go through in their lives, and the people that, hold on and get to the other side, and how those experiences shape you and make you and build you, and you can use that, right? And I wrote this song thinking about all those things and how that makes you who you are, and it shows you what you're made of, and that's what this song is called. This song is called Made Of. Remember that path behind our old house? It took us further than any car could. A place to hide where we knew we should. Where we planned to take on the world with all that's tried. With all that's life, we learn to live. Learn to cry. We learn if you're wrong, then you give up. Then they hold you down long enough until you knew you were made of. Dance in the middle of the floor on a Saturday night. Did you try to take on the world? Did you leave me behind? Or wait on the same sidewalk that we grew up? 'Cause I know you always walk the same way back. Where you learn to live, you learn to love. You learn to cry. You learn if you're wrong, then you give up. Then they hold you down long enough until you knew what you were made of. Until you knew what you were made of. Your heart's a stone. go. You let go. You let go. You let go. Learn to live. You learn to love. You learn to cry. You learn if you're wrong, then you give up. Did they hold you down long enough until you knew you were made of? You were made of. You were made of. You were made of. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I did spend a lot of time, growing up north and, growing up, when you're really far from everybody, you kind of just like latch on to things that are around you. And I think that's in any case. Sometimes you're alone in your own head. I don't know, a lot of those things, but you find the thing that you love. Right. And, one of the things that I gravitated towards, when I was growing up north was listening to, my family playing guitar, singing and things like that, because we didn't have very much. When I would go up north, especially when I was young, we would I would fly from, if you are familiar with your geography, and if not, this is a nice little thing you can check out after. If you know where Thunder Bay is, you go 4 hours northwest, and that's where Sioux Lookout is, and that's where my parents were, my brothers, and I was born there. But then you go another maybe 8-hour drive, or maybe an hour and a half to 2-hour flight north, you'll find a community called North Caribou Lake or Weagamow Lake. And that's where my reserve is. And that's where the rest of my family is. That's where, my grandparents were, my aunts, my cousins, all of them. And I would jump between the two places. I would live between the two places when I was young. And when I'd go up north, a lot of the times I'd either go in the beginning of the summer or the beginning of the school season, or like mid-fall. Because usually that's when the hunting would start, hunting into the winter, which would be trapping and even ice fishing and things like that. So anyway, we would go, I'd go from Sioux Lookout, and then I'd land in Round Lake, and we'd be there for like a day, and we'd be preparing to go live, further north to North Caribou Lake, which is where our trap line was. And then we would all get into another plane or a boat, depending on the season, and we'd travel even further into the bush, and we'd be at our cabin, which had no electricity, had nothing, and it would be myself and like 5 other cousins and a bunch of aunts, bunch of uncles, my grandparents, and we'd be there for the winter. And we would have 1 hour of electricity a day because we had a generator, and my grandfather would turn that generator on for 1 hour a day. And we had a Super Nintendo and a VCR with an old TV, and we'd have 1 hour to do whatever we wanted, because I was still like 10 or 11. Obviously, I wanted to play some video games or watch a movie. And so we would have 1 hour, and so either we'd have to pick and try and all take turns playing Super Nintendo, or like watch 1 hour of a movie. So we wouldn't even get to finish it. Anyway, so after that, lights out, and my grandfather would play guitar, and my family would sing. They would sing songs like hymns or gospel songs or country songs, things like that. And then that was it. Lights out, pitch black, and we'd be up there quite a bit, for quite a long time, and that's kind of where I just really, knew that I loved music, knew that I loved that, knew that was something that I just held always, But of course, I grew up and I didn't go up north very much, and now our family doesn't do that. My family was trappers, fishermen, things like that, and that's not very lucrative anymore. Not a lot of people do that or make money that way anymore. So that way of living isn't done too often nowadays. But I wrote a song just thinking about what it was like growing up north, and just kind of that feeling, and a little bit romanticized, a little bit dark, and just a part of my memories that I just don't want to forget. So that's what this next song is about. It's called Northern Ghost. Screen doors and cigarettes on the floor, walking down dirt roads in the dark, following footsteps, there's no place else to go. Gotta get this old home. Cross the lakes and rivers fast, these strong winds won't let us pass. Starving in the sun, freezing in the cold. Say a little prayer in the northern coast. Say a little prayer in the northern haven't seen the sun so many days. Haven't seen the light on your face. When I wake up, I forgot what I was doing. Something for me here, nothing broke my fall. Cross the lakes and rivers fast, these strong winds won't let us pass. Starving in the sun, freezing in the cold. Say a little prayer to the northern coast. Say a little prayer to the northern coast. So when I wake up, then I'm home. 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 Then I'm home. Cross the lakes and rivers fast, these strong winds won't let us pass. Starving in the sun, freezing in the cold. Say a little prayer to the northern coast. Say a little prayer to the northern coast. Say a little prayer to the northern coast. Well, thank you guys very much. Well, I'm gonna play one more song for you guys, and then I think we're gonna have some time to ask some questions. But let's just get into this one right away, because I probably talk too much, right? I can't see it, guys, but you're all probably nodding your head. Yeah. I just want to thank you guys all for being here, and thank you to Joe, and thank you to the Downey and Wenjack Fund and the organization that shines light on all of this. And it's a hard thing to explore, but it's also, I feel like there's so much there to process, but there's so much more past that, past the residential school stuff, past all that stuff are still these communities that are thriving and surviving, and young people that still have to leave their homes to go to school, especially here. There's a lot of communities up in the north where, if you're 13, 14 years old, going into grade 9, you leave your home. You don't stay home. You go to a city, you go to a larger town, and you go to school there on your own with a family that you don't know. And it's so there are still challenges now in this day, and I think a lot of this, if there's anything that you take away from learning this, and I think this goes for every single person, on earth, on every side, is, compassion and the capacity to listen and understand why people are where they are at, and if that's something that you can take from this, then I think that's good, it's hard to take something like that on. It's hard to look at that and say, I want to change that thing on my own. And that is hard. It can be overwhelming. But listening to someone and seeing someone and hearing them and being compassionate, that matters, and that does matter, in every aspect of your life. Right. But this next song here I'm going to play, it's called Windows. And it's just about, loving where you're at. You'll find yourself a lot of times in your life regretting decisions, regretting things, or thinking things should have been this way or whatever. But and of course, I wrote this because that's where I was at, but that I don't believe that to be true, not now. Everyone is on a path. Things happen, things that you will experience, things are going to happen to you, and you move through them, and you appreciate the things that are in your life. And, either you're with the person that you want to be with, or you're on the way to being with that person, or you're completely alone and you're okay with that, or you're working towards a goal and you're not there yet, and those kinds of things, you keep working towards those things. And you do that work, for yourself. But this song here I wrote just about that, just knowing where you're at and appreciating where you're at, I've been catching you staring out a window, keeping the sun from lighting up the room. You got a different life. Every time you sit and wonder, every time you go up, every time you grow up to see, well, we can move heaven, feel this hellfire. You get this look in your eye like the devil's been talking. You should know better. These hard times move like water. You're made of stone, and these clouds are moving on. These clouds are moving on. It's not the first time you saw everything was better.
You're the side of the glass where you can't get caught. You might be hiding from the storm, or calling it over, or playing with fire, hoping you won't get burned. Or playing with fire, hoping you won't get burned. Where we can move heaven, feel this hellfire. You get this look in your eye like the devil's been talking. You should know better. These hard times move like water. You're made of stone and these clouds are moving on. These clouds are moving on.
Thank you guys all very much. I really appreciate being here with you guys today. I'm going to, I think, let Joe come back in, and we'll have some questions, and I'll be doing some answering.
All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much. That was a great set of songs, and not too much talking at all. What you said at the beginning was great. You really kind of summarized, I think, what a lot of classrooms are thinking about, learning about, feeling, and then, you know, kind of sharing some of your family's experiences as well. I think that was great. So thank you so much for the music. Thank you so much for the storytelling, Nick.
Absolutely. No, I'm like I said, I'm really happy to be here sharing and, you know, getting to share these experiences with everybody here today.
All right. Well, if you're tuning in live via YouTube, now's the time to put a couple questions into the chat sidebar. We'll work some of those in. For now, though, let's get started with some of our camera classrooms. So let's see. Let's start off. Let's go to Miss Losal's group. There's some grade 6-7s joining us from Levac. Let me bring them in now. There we go. Hey, 6-7s, how we doing?
Hi. We have a couple of questions here.
Excellent. Come nice and close so we can hear you well.
There you go, babe. That's good name.
What is your Indigenous name?
Did you hear that?
A little bit louder.
What's your Indigenous name?
Did you say, what is your Indigenous name?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay, that was the question. Okay. Well, interesting. I actually don't have an Indigenous name. Indigenous names are usually given out through ceremony, and a lot of people, you know, get it when they're young or babies or adults or different parts in their life, and you know, they're given their Indigenous name or their spirit name. I actually don't have one. One of the interesting things about growing up north, the community that I came from was a lot more, had more of a church background. So the idea of traditional or Indigenous spirituality wasn't really a thing that we practiced up north. And a lot of there are some very complicated reasons for that. You know, it just wasn't allowed, you know. So I don't have that name, and that's something that I'm, you know, going through, you know, in my life, is figuring out what Indigenous spirituality is to me, and things like that. So I don't have an Indigenous name. So I hope that answers your question.
All right. So we're gonna pop to another classroom, but we'll see if we have some time to swing back for a follow-up. This time we're gonna visit, let's see. We have Miss Stowell's group is joining us from Peachland, British Columbia. Let me bring them into the call here. How are we doing, Glen Rosa Middle School?
They can hear you this time.
All right, we've got you. Who's got a question for us?
Yeah.
How did you know that music was the thing you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
I did hear that. When did I know music was the thing that I wanted to do for the rest of my life? I probably knew when I was like 12. Growing up north, we didn't have much. And when I was like 10 years old or 9 or 10, like my cousins played guitar, my grandpa played guitar, everyone in the community, everyone just did that. And I was like, I want to play guitar. I really wanted to. I tried playing guitar. My hands were too small. My cousin was like, come back next year when your hands are bigger. You got to stretch your fingers out. So the entire summer I was just stretching my fingers like, I'm going to play guitar when I go back up north, I swear, and I stretched all summer. I'm not even joking. I did this. I like stretched my fingers because I wanted to play so bad. I wanted my hands to get bigger. And you know what? It worked. I'm just kidding. That did not work. That does not work. Just letting you guys all know this. I just wanted to play so bad. I just wanted to play music, and, as I got older, I just, I taught myself how to play guitar. I taught myself every chord that I wanted, that I could find, every song I tried to learn. And then I just wrote my own songs. And, it just was always something that I was doing that I wanted to do. That was just like, I had to do it. You find that passion in your life that you just know that you can't not do it, and it's been a lot of work to figure out how to just keep playing all the time, playing shows and telling stories and just really loving what that means, so it's just something that's always been a part of my life that I've always wanted to do.
All right. Well, good to know out there, because I think in the camera I saw some students were already starting to stretch their fingers. So it's not going to work, guys. It's gotta grow naturally. All right. Barrie, Ontario, Mr. Kwiatkowski's grade 8s are joining us. Let's bring them into the call here.
Okay. Hey, go ahead, Marlon.
Have you ever made any other genre of music, like rock?
That's a great question, actually. Okay, so obviously I'm singing here by myself. The fact that I'm singing here by myself is more out of necessity because, you know what? I've played in a lot of different bands. When I was in high school, I played in punk bands, and then I played in metal bands. I played in like rock bands, all kinds. And through the years, I'm much older now. Over the years, I've had friends that, they were done playing music. They were not playing anymore. Eventually I didn't have anyone that was really wanting to just get in a van and play music anymore. So, I thought I'm just going to write my own songs and I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to keep playing music. I'm going to write songs, tell stories and travel by myself with my guitar. But if that's what I have to do, and that is what I have been doing more often than not. I've been fortunate enough to hire bands and play with more people now. But yeah, I've played in a lot of different bands, heavier bands. But yeah, I love all genres of music. I love all kinds of music. So, if it's quiet and soft and has, that kind of feeling to it, totally into it. But if it's like loud and angry and has crazy drums and heavy guitars, I'm super into that too, and pretty much anything. So yeah, I've played different kinds of music.
All right, great stuff. Good question. We're gonna head south of the border. We've got Mr. Laveau's classes hanging out with us today. Let's bring them in. Hey, Florida, how we doing?
Yeah, we're warm. How are you? We're warm. Eric, ask your question. You had a good question.
Do you play different instruments, or do you want to, if not, do you want to learn a different instrument?
So the question is, do you play any other instruments? And if not, what would you like to learn how to play?
Well, that's a great question. So yeah, I do play other instruments. I taught myself how to play guitar when I was quite young. And eventually, I've played drums in bands, so I learned how to play drums. The bass guitar, which is very similar to the, just a regular guitar, but a very, it's an instrument to its own right. I've learned how to play the bass as well. And actually now I'm doing my best to find time to learn how to play piano, keyboard. My two boys really, want to play music. So it's, I'm really trying to learn as I, learn more. You'll know, especially if you play music or you get into something that you really love, you never stop learning. You never stop learning about that thing. Things are always changing. There's always more to learn, that you can always become better at what you do, right? So right now it's my wish that I can become good at piano, hopefully soon. That's what I'm going for. But I do enjoy playing other instruments as well.
All right. We've got Spruce Grove, Alberta joining us. They've sent us in a question here. And their question is, in the intro, you mentioned trap lines.
Mm-hmm.
So they're wondering, are there any other activities that traditional activities you participate in when you're up north?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's a really good question. Growing up north, especially when we were really far, and I told you about the Super Nintendo, I told you about the VCR. So those were 1 hour. But you know what? In the morning time, when my cousin and I would have to wake up at like 6 a.m. And before we went to school, we had there was a little cabin school we had. Before we went to school, we'd have to go check the traps across the lake, across the frozen lake. So we'd take a skidoo across a frozen lake to where our traps were, and the traps are set up, all around, and they trap animals. And if people that are tuning in don't know what trapping is, I'm sure you do. But if you don't, you're trapping animals, and you're taking their fur and you're selling that. That was a way people made money. They still do till this day, anyway, that's what my family did. So we'd have to go check the traps, make sure everything was okay, bring back anything if we caught it. But we would get distracted, and we would like to go hunting partridge, which are these little, very not smart birds. You could basically walk up to them and grab them, and we would go and we would just grab them. We'd make a little stick with a rope on it and just collect as many as we could, because that's what we would eat. So that was one activity we would do in the morning. And another thing we would do at nighttime is we'd go and play a flashlight tag on the ice. So one of us would have a flashlight, and we'd all run around on the ice and tag each other, whatever. But sometimes you'd hear wolves around the lake, around the water. And so you hear some wolves, are all right, time to get off the ice. So we do things like that. And, and then other kid stuff, just building forts and things like that. Yeah, those are some of the things that we did.
That's great. I bet you a lot of the students joining us right now have never had the pleasure of having one of their tapes eaten by a VCR. That's probably something that they're never going to experience.
What a lucky generation.
All right. Mr. B's crew is joining us in Winnipeg, Manitoba. How's everyone doing?
Good, thank you. Oh, we got, maybe we'll try to steal 2 questions here. Thanks, Nick, for sharing about your music and about some of your time spent in Northern Ontario. We've been doing some work with through math and doing actual measuring tracking prints, and so it was right in line with what we've been doing. So thank you. But one of the questions is we had quite a few about music, so I think we talked to that quite a bit. But one of the questions was, what advice or words do you wish you would have heard when you were younger, and that you could tell yourself today?
Oh, advice to myself. Well, so many come to mind. But, when it comes to advice to myself for just, doing the things that I love and enjoy, I feel like a lot of times, people get held up and they don't do things, and a lot of the times it's just themselves holding them back. And I feel like if there's one thing that I knew, growing up, was that don't let myself be the obstacle or the barrier between the thing that I love and the thing that not being the barrier to doing the thing that I love, right? I think sometimes you can get caught up in your own head, you can become nervous, you get full of self-doubt, you're insecure, all of these things, you're worried about what other people are thinking, and for some reason, that's the reason you're not going to do it. Right. And I feel like if I could go back and just tell myself that doesn't matter, the people that, like haters, people that make fun of you, people that don't care, whatever, those things don't matter. What matters is, you being happy, you doing the thing that you love, and that you can do the thing that you love, and I think that's hard to understand. It's hard to understand that, until you get much older, and I'll just tell a quick story here. When I was just starting to play, I had moved away from my town. I was going to university or college in a different town, and I was by myself, and I went to go play an open mic by myself for the very first time, and I was so nervous, so nervous, and I thought, I'm going to do this anyway. And I got on the stage, and my guitar was out of tune, and the microphone wasn't working, and I forgot the words to my song, and I completely sucked and didn't do well, and I hated it, and I thought I would never perform again. And I went home, and I swore off music, and of course that drive was still there. And I just realized I had to prepare more, and I had to get through that. I had to get over that obstacle. And the only thing in the way of that was my own mind, and so I just got over it, and did better. And I practiced, and I learned my songs, and I learned how to do things better. And I was able to do that successfully, the next time. So a lot of times it's you're in the way, so that's one thing I would share.
All right. Great advice, Nick. And I think this has come up once or twice in some of the events we've done is that kind of what to do when you fail, what to do when you struggle. And some people give up and they don't come back to something, but you can learn so much from a failure, and take away a lot from it and improve on what you were trying to do.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Mr. B's crew, I think you said you were going to try and sneak two in. Did you have another one?
Yeah, follow-up one. Anderson, do you want to ask it? Do you remember what it was? They can probably hear it. Just keep that.
Are you happy with where you are right now?
Am I happy with where I am right now? Geographically, or it's cold here, so I wish it was warmer. I'm just kidding. You know what? Yes, I am happy with where I'm at. I've done a lot of touring. I've done a lot of traveling over my life, playing music in a lot of different capacities, and a lot of ups and a lot of downs. That's one of the things you experience, especially when you're really working on the thing and working on it for yourself. And there's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows, and you kind of get caught up in that. But I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm happy that, I get to play music, and I hope things become, a little more safe so that I can travel and do that in a better way, in a healthier way. And I'm grateful for the experiences that I've had, because I've had to learn a lot of things for myself along the way, just for myself personally, and for what I want to do, professionally as well. So yeah, I am happy with it. And I don't think that would have been done without, hard work and realizing and being critical of not only, of my professional stuff, but myself personally. You always make sure you're taking care of yourself first, and then so you can be good for the things that you want to do, be good for your family, be good for the people around you as well, right? So it takes all of those things, to be good and happy with where you're at, so yeah, I would say yes.
All right. Well, Nick, I want to start off with a shout out to YouTube. Thank you to all the classrooms who tuned in and were sending in some questions. A shout out to our camera classrooms spanning Ontario right across to British Columbia. We had BC, Alberta, Manitoba joining us, classrooms in Ontario, even going down south to Florida. So Nick, thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing some stories with us, and the music. Thank you for the music. It's amazing songs. And I know the classrooms thoroughly enjoyed our time today.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me, Joe. I really appreciate you. I'm feel so, honored to be here with everybody that, from all over the place. I'm shocked. It's amazing. I see a question here on the side about social media sites. Just search my name, Nick Sherman, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the places. You'll find links to my social media there, and yeah, give me a follow there. I do my best to keep up with that kind of stuff. But mostly if you want to hear my music, go to Apple Music, go to Spotify, go to those places, and you'll be able to hear more of the songs that that I write, and sort of the experiences behind that. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, and I really do appreciate everyone's time today. And yeah, hopefully I see you guys all in person one day.
All right, Nick. Well, we're hoping you're back on the road soon, in front of crowds and doing what you love. But for now, thank you so much. A blast to get to spend some time with you, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Absolutely. You too, Joe, and you too, everyone out there in your classrooms. Yeah, have a great week.
All right. Thanks, Nick.